I'm Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. You are listening to the November 2024 This is The Way podcast Star Wars News Update. November 12th marked the 5th anniversary of Disney Plus and also this podcast. You can listen to This is The Way podcast episode 161 for a special episode released on the anniversary. It's a quick listen. It's also the first one I uploaded in visual format, the same way I release for YouTube. Since Spotify offers it, and I'm already producing one that way for YouTube, I think you can expect all of our episodes going forward to follow in the same way.
There's no other way.
It's time for me to report Star Wars news released since our last news update podcast. Skeleton Crew is almost here, and This is the Way podcast will be covering this show. I'm hoping to have a special guest join me while I recap and review the 8 episodes, and they begin with 2 on December 2nd. Yes, that is a day earlier than previously reported, and if I'm not mistaken, Lucasfilm and Disney did something similar with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show a few years ago, announcing a release date, and then at that time, they had Ewan McGregor announced that they were bumping it up shortly before the scheduled debut. The directors of the show are going to be John Watts. He's going to take the pilot. David Lowery has 2 and 3. The Daniels take episode 4. Jake Schreier helms 5. Bryce Dallas Howard takes 6. And Lee Isaac Chung handles the penultimate episode 7 before John Watts returns for the finale. There are a lot of new TV spots. I'm of the opinion that it's going to be fun. And as long as Lucasfilm can resist putting in modern day politics, this has a chance to be a family-friendly hit. Lucasfilm and Disney are even releasing those first 2 episodes in select theaters. There is notably a TV PG rating. It's very limited seating, and they are 7 p.m. showings. The announcement came as I was typing up the notes for this show on November 26th. Now, at the time you hear this, tickets are no longer available on the Fandango site, and as I'm recording, I checked. The only screening left with seats is in South Jordan, Utah, south of Salt Lake City. You can check out YouTube for a director roundtable. There are teasers, trailers, clips from the show, and probably there will be more before the show debuts. Although, again, that's going to be Monday the 2nd instead of Tuesday the 3rd.
Wait! Stop the trap! I overslept! You can make it!
The other show on the horizon is Andor, and it doesn't come out until April. It's still getting coverage, though, online from Empire Magazine. There are shots of Cassian, Mon Mothma, Luthen, Dedra, even Mon Mothma's daughter. And there are some pairings like Bix and Cassian. There's a Dedra and Cyril picture that takes place somewhere in the ISB, I think in that meeting room. And then there's Luthen and Mon Mothma, and there are stormtroopers in the background. That was quite intriguing. There's also footage available from Season 2 already, but it's in the form of a Disney Plus trailer that was released on the anniversary of the streaming platform, so there's just a bunch of clips that don't make any sense right now. The first of 4 arcs remember, they're each going to cover a year in the rebellion leading up to Rogue One. Those start with Season 2, Episode 1. Streaming debut is set for April 22nd, 2025.
Let's get to it.
Star Wars gamers. Last month, there was news that Jedi Survivor was coming to PS4 and Xbox One, and now this month, there's news that the game will be optimized for the PS5 Pro. Now, what does that mean? Well, higher resolution. That's really all it means. Star Wars Hunters is coming to PC. Previously, it was only available on Nintendo Switch and on mobile, but now it's going to get some higher detailed quality rendering and layering on the PC. There will be a little bit higher resolution and textures and shadows, and select battlefields will look a little different, but keyboard, mouse, and wireless control support is also going to be added, as well as key binding. So expect a little bit more competition when you go to play in January of 2025.
Here are today's combatants.
The platform fighting game Brawlhalla is getting some new characters from a galaxy far, far away. There are already Star Wars characters in that game, like Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader, Darth Maul, but December 4th is going to debut a new map and new characters such as the Mandalorian, Han Solo, Chewbacca, but curiously, none of the new Skeleton Crew characters. Instead, the Outlaws game characters are coming, K-Vess and Nyx. Speaking of Outlaws, the game was in the news a couple of times, over the last few months, really. First, let me tell you about some good news. The game has been nominated for 3 prizes at this year's Game Awards, being held in LA. Best Performance, Best Action Adventure, and Innovation and Accessibility. The winners of those awards will be announced on December 12th, 2024 at Peacock Theater in LA. It's going to be live streamed. I actually don't know if this next thing is technically good or bad news, but part of the game has already been removed because of a host of problems associated with it. Forced stealth has been removed. Not stealth, but forced stealth. Now, if you are caught in a stealth mission, instead of failing the objective, the mission is going to transfer into combat, and the creative director says that will be seamless. So that helps alleviate one of the big issues that game reviewers were having with the game. You can go onto YouTube, see plenty of evidence out there if you really want to look for it. But it also helps that, as advertised, the game is finally getting some DLC called Wildcard. That features Lando Calrissian and the card game Sabacc. Since the game is on sale already, and it was released on Steam recently, maybe it's going to help because there were a lot of less than stellar sales. The often rosy-colored reviewers on StarWarsNews.net say, don't expect much. And they point out, this is not even a true expansion, it's DLC. Nor, they say, does it transform the game the way that Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion did for that game. And that game had even bigger issues on its release. So if even the content creators at StarWarsNews.net say don't expect much, it's best to temper your expectations.
Imperial TIE Fighter and X-Wing Fighter, new from Star Wars Micro Collection line, each sold separately.
Okay, collectors, you probably already have your Christmas purchases set. November wasn't a big month for announcements from Hasbro or Hasbro Pulse, but the lead-ups to Black Friday are usually from late summer to early fall, and there were some mid-month additions to the Black Series pre-order lists. The updates were 2 separate packages, Black Series versions of Dagan Gera and a BX droid hybrid from Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and then the other, a Clone Commando and B-1 battle droid from Star Wars Battlefront 2. So 2 game-inspired choices right before the holiday, and if I'm not mistaken, those are exclusive to Amazon.com pre-orders at this point. And the Gift the Galaxy campaign runs until mid-December. By the time you get another news update podcast, though, it'll be after the holidays, and you may be looking to use some of those gift cards that you got during the holidays. So week 2, there was this IG-12 Black Series edition with Grogu and an Anzellan from Season 3 of The Mandalorian. And then week 3, there was an Obi-Wan Kenobi Clone Wars edition with a 212th Clone Trooper.
Yeah? Good.
If you're looking for a gift guide, you can check out StarWars.com for one, but those are not all necessarily new toys, clothes, and gear. It's just, something that they're trying to sell. So there is one thing. If you're a fan of Baylan Skoll, you can get his Force FX Elite lightsaber. And I gotta say, the hilt looks great. But I say this almost every single time there's one of these revealed. If I was a kid, yeah, I would absolutely have loved to have this, but I would also have broken it within a week swinging that thing around. And Ahsoka is getting a season 2, but remember, the actor Ray Stevenson passed away, so you might want to factor that in before you decide to spend the money on his lightsaber from the show. It's $250.
Just one more thing.
And one more thing, we do have some Disney Parks news this month. And last month I talked about the new version of the Lightning Lane and the Premier Pass availability. I promised then to talk about the ticket price increases. Well, listen to this. The cheapest annual pass for Florida residents is up $30 from $439 to $469. That's the Pixie Pass, I believe. The Pirate Pass, a mid-level offering, is up from $799 to $829, so another $30 bump. The Sorcerer's Pass is up $80 from $999 to $1,079. And remember, that's the first one that's available to not just Florida residents, but also some DVC members. And then the Incredipass. That is the one that, even if you don't live in Florida, it has no blackout dates. This thing was $1,459. It is now $100 more. You got to think, the annual pass might actually be a better deal for you if you're going enough during the year. Even maybe just one time if you're going for like 7 days. Because the current ticket prices are up 101% over the last decade, and annual passes are up 86%. But then you also have to figure in parking. So $30 a day or whatever it is, even if you're staying at a resort, you have to pay for parking. So if you want a single day ticket to Animal Kingdom, you're going to pay between $119 and $174. Epcot tickets, $129 to $194 at peak pricing. Hollywood Studios, that's where Galaxy's Edge is. That's going to cost you from $139 to $194 per person. And then you got the Magic Kingdom, $139 to $199. Make no mistake here, Disney, it's a business. And while it used to be satisfied taking your money, but also giving you some value, it's now just like any other business. They're going to squeeze as much as they can from you and then give you as little as they can. And then there's this added drawback of having people that are in charge who think, yeah, our worldview and our politics are superior to everyone else's, and we're going to do it even if it causes problems, even if it ruins intellectual property that we didn't even start.
I think we can let him off with the warning this time.
Alright, so if you think I've missed something, or you disagree with me, or you think I'm bringing you down for the holidays, you can send email to thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. You can also interact with This Is The Way Podcast by finding our links in one place at linktr.ee/thisisthewaypod, Linktree. Thank you so much for joining me for This Is The Way Podcast's November 2024 News Update episode. I am your host, Steve Lascalzo, and may the Force be with you always.